Hello YouTube, Ronan Kazi here with another video. Still doing Manhunt Lucky. First night it came out, I knocked all the stuff out, but haven't been able to put the videos out. Dog's going crazy as usual. So I'm running my standard vial jammer build, and you're going to see I go through these things pretty easy. Since I've recorded this, I've done the boss like 2 or 3 times now, helping other people out through there. Again, some of the benefits of this build is you're no look damaging everyone, you're AoE damaging everyone, you're really taking out dogs and that kind of stuff in the against the Black Tusk. If you don't know better, when you start getting grenaded, you got to move immediately. They usually do 3 in a row. Everyone knows that, but like sometimes I'm too stupid to do that at this point still. So I'm still just kind of getting set up. I think I have a turret set up there, and I'm going to get anyone that's pushing me. You know, usually when you break a control point, there's a bunch of people when it first comes out. I didn't specifically try to examine the mechanics on the Manhunt control points. A couple things that are different. They don't have named bosses at the end of each segment, so that's kind of nice. So you can kind of move on. Everyone's still heroic. These should take you about 8 to 10 minutes solo. You could wait for your people to come in. On some of these, if they get hung up, it makes a little bit of problem because they take some of the aggro. And when you're solo, that always helps when you have someone else taking a little bit of the aggro. This is a point where maybe I would say, let's say you don't use the pulse, maybe you'd use Firefly, or the Firefly with the blind on it. That might be better to spread the vial around. It's a little more, the groups here aren't as focused, it's wide open. And this is a problem with any fight that's wide open. You're not going to, if you're a weapon DPS, you have multiple targets from different angles hitting you. If you're skill DPS, most of those skills are at least on long range, are single target. You could throw seekers out, that would be something good. When you're breaking one of these, and when I say breaking, I mean when you're starting to go into a control point, if you don't have a bunch of damage, that's why you're using a turret usually. Seekers are okay. It's I'm doing a video and I don't want to fail in front of you guys, so I'm using the best parts of this build. We talked about when you make this build, what kind of attributes you get on gear. This is why if you have skill damage on some of them, it's not the end of the world, because you still can, oops, run. You can still use your turret if you have skill damage. It's always a long standing debate. Should you min-max? And by min-max, I mean, should you roll everything status that you can to do the most status damage? If you're doing a vial build, that's one way to do it. You weaken that part of it when you don't do that. But you have to say, again, if I'm doing 100,000 status damage, but I'm doing it a pulse once every 20 seconds, so I'm doing 300,000 a minute, versus I'm doing 70 and I can do 5 pulses, that's 350,000 a minute. So there's some considerations, there's a little bit of math. I know that I never mentioned that we're going to do math in these. I apologize to those of you that don't want to do math, but that's some of the considerations you're going to do. And that's kind of the combo do I have, right? I'm going to tell you this, skill haste with a DPS build is pretty wasted because the turret comes back pretty fast and you're not gaining anything if you get it back any faster. You're going to usually, it lasts long enough where you're usually going to kill everything before it's destroyed. That's if you're using 6 skill slots. If you're not using 6 skill slots or 5 with technician, then that's a different story. And hybrid builds, I love hybrid builds, and that's an important set of builds. It's really what you want to do. People comment me and they tell me how their builds have variations on kind of what I do. That's awesome. Because really, you want to play a build style that you like to do. We're about halfway through and taking this over. And you can kind of see at this point, I've flipped the battlefield. We're still taking it over. Oh, I'm defending it, so that's why I'm flipping it. One of the things that's nice, you see I play a little more risky, but I do have, every 60 seconds I have Unbreakable that can pop up. Normally I would have had, like 3 or 4 recharges in there, and that's kind of what I sacrificed to make this build. By the way, this event could not have this where they res themselves. Couldn't have come at a worse time. Like, you're killing everything almost twice, it seems. And recently, I started thinking about, why would you ever, when you're defining the usefulness of a build, I can solo 95% of the content in the game with this build. But really, is that important? Is it important to, what are the benefits of doing Legendary? Is the gear that much better? I don't think it is. For the amount of time it would take to solo versus what gear you get. Again, there's always these calculations. So, I think Heroic's good enough. I think the lowest I'd ever go for gear is Challenging. Yesterday when I was doing some running with people, I ran in a group that was doing hard, but it had 4 directives, and we were getting like nearly 400,000 XP a clear, and we were rolling through that because we're only facing hard. So it depends on what you're getting. That's what's great about the Division 2, is you can customize your gameplay to what you want. Now, a bunch of people would get in the group with us and they drop in that hard one because they're like, oh, this is only hard. But we were getting, those new caches because we were just leveling up non-stop. So it's something to consider. Again, I would tell you this, if you're a technician build and a dog comes in your group, you should be leading the charge on dog. You do 10% more damage. You should be taking out the skills of the enemy. That's I kind of try to do that. So you should be able to shut a dog down really fast. I'll tell you the times that are the worst for me is when I'm skill DPS and I still have my jammer on. I want to, I might go down here. I still would like to, do the damage, but I'm in that skill DPS mode, so kind of miss it. But sometimes you just need to be jammer no matter what. It's the right thing to do in the gameplay. So again, Vile Jammer build, doing Manhunt, Lucky, Control Point, solo on Heroic. I'm sure there's a bunch of you that can do it. The purpose of some of these builds are to get people that might not do this type of content to do this kind. I'm sure everyone does these manhunts, but to do it where you don't have to wait for a group. Spawner in a group a lot of times. But I will say this about content and Division. It's nice to get the rewards you want or get to see the story you want when you want, not to have to wait for a group. And that's really why I solo in any MMO, because I want to see some things. I don't want to bore a group with, I want to get all the hunter masks. And every once in a while, there we go. You got this. So we're going to go on to the solar farm. I'll get back to that, what I was talking about in a second. Solar farm is one of the great control points if you're farming materials. It's really one of those ones that you can just go forever picking up materials in the area of the control point. So I was going to not record this, but I figured I'd record this first part. So this takes a little bit longer on this one.
I can't get a line on him.
I'll just give you some idea what's going on the channel. Just, I think I'm right at 225, so I'm a quarter of the way. If you didn't know this, YouTube lets you start monetizing when you get 1,000 followers. So I appreciate every one of you that has followed. I'm a quarter of the way there. I also appreciate they have another metric that you have to have people watch 4,000 hours worth of your content. You guys have been great. So I really appreciate everyone that has subscribed and that watches the videos and that likes some of them, that comment. I really appreciate it. Not the only reason I'm doing it. I like helping people. I like sharing kind of what I'm doing. A lot of times you'll see people in the game, and for the most part, you know, they're really friendly and really helpful. And, you know, I guess one video I probably, if I would have started this when I was doing the expertise is really something that a lot of folks, when it first came out, and even maybe they're getting back to the game, they didn't really understand. And it's pretty easy, the expertise. And what I first started doing is I'd get 4 pieces of green, and I would just run through that. And doing 3 control points on heroic, you would max everything out, XP wise. So I did that, and then I think I read somewhere that you could buy guns, and you could buy like 20 guns and donate them, and you could do 10. So between buying guns and that, you know, running the greens, I got pretty high. Then I think when I was doing expertise, then I just started wearing a bunch of yellow pieces. I did that same for the name, not the name sets, but the yellow gear sets. I would get 4 pieces and knock that out. So you can get pretty far just doing those 3 things. Then I read somewhere that if you have printer filament, you could, that's the least expensive way to do it, but they're very hard to get, so it's kind of also the most expensive. But I did some of that. I had other accounts, and I had mats from other accounts, so I stole, not other accounts, excuse me, other characters, so I stole all their loot and everything, and I got to 16, 17 pretty fast. Doing 18 to 19 and 19 to 20 was really long and pretty hard, and it was a slog. But I don't know what the difference is. Well, I do know what the difference between 16% and 20%. It's 4%, but in the big scheme of things, if you got around 15 or 16, that's a good, you can get there relatively painlessly and relatively fast. And I'm sure other people do it better than me. On my other account, I just started donating. I think on this account, I just started donating everything. So I would just donate. I think I was already done with that. On my new account, I think I just donate everything every time and get it to it that way. I never did that. I always would go there and selectively, you know, I really controlled it. But in hindsight, that was, you know, way too much work. So the Scorpio is not the optimal weapon to be using, but remember, I'm a jammer vial build, so I just want to put a status effect on someone and then take care of them. And so this is going a little bit slower. I'm being kind of cautious. I should push in the middle. They kind of spawned on the other side. And I think here for a while I have low health, so I'm really, oh, there's my dog on cue. One day I'll do a video on these dogs, so you can meet these dogs. That's Roxy. Roxy is a little, she sounds exactly like she is. She's a little football dog. There you can see Unbreakable fired off right there. And so at this point with the build, it's pretty, I think I have a Golem piece in this. I have a Gila piece in this. I have the Golem I rolled yellow. I had Golem because of the stats. Probably better than Gila. Might have been, you know, I think is Bellstone or whatever it is, begins with a B. This one has 1% regen on your armor. So that might be a way to do that. On a tank build where you have like 1,000,000 armor, that's one of the centerpieces. I try to get I try to get like 2% regen on 1,000,000 or 2,000,000, like 40,000 regen. Plus if you roll it on other stuff, you can have a lot of regen. About halfway done with this. I think I have one guy. This guy's right, the guy I got to kill, and then I'll get to defend. If I don't die first. Oh, I lied to you. Sorry, you two. I'll just say one thing in general that happens. Maybe here's where I die. A lot of people like to go up on that platform, but you can see with this grenading, and if there's dogs out, that's just really a fool's place to go because you're going to get grenaded. On a legendary, you'll see people, legendary capital is perfect for that. Legendary capital, you'll always have someone that runs up onto that crosswalk area and they just get grenaded to death. And usually that's the start of the end on that first wave. You might run up there. It's nice to get a turret up there, but really you just can't rush. That kind of the point of that first part, I believe, is to make you slow down. And if you're not going to slow down, you're not going to advance off of that map. So I try to stay in here for a while. So I'm going to put a turret like in both openings because I have people coming both ways. And again, I've heard someone say this, and I would agree. If you get a 2-man group, that's a pretty efficient group. I don't think they scale the mobs that much higher, but with the two of you, you cut through this stuff. I almost hate showing those videos because we go through it so fast. It's almost like we're not on heroic. The other thing I mentioned to you recently, and it's another thing to consider, and I'll probably do a video on this. I'll just do the video. I won't give it away yet, but it's a pretty good concept. Then imagine if we had all these different builds and people had standardized builds. I'll talk about it later, but that's a good idea, I think. Again, I mentioned this earlier. There's no name bosses on these control points, so they go relatively fast. I apologize, this one is going a little too long. And I really don't check out other people's channels. I looked at them a little bit, but you know, for whatever reason, I'd like to kind of discover things on my own or do things like that. I have an idea on games, how I like to play, how I like my characters play. I think I mentioned I like in other games it might be lifesteal, but that Ridgeway chess piece where you get health back by putting a bleed on someone, that's just like a fantastic kind of thing. And so if I can regen, I like that. I like to have some type of trickle healing coming in, so I'm just not sitting there, you know, at the bottom and, you know, one shot. I can get one shot or something. And so again, I've mentioned this a gazillion times. I'll just go gazillion and one. The thing about the jammer vial, right, is I can stay in cover a lot and I can go back and forth and hit people on both sides. I don't have to look at them. It's not line of sight. It's just AoE, 100% area of effect. And you can see in situations like this, when you're on heroic or legendary, you're very seldom are you going to kill a guy. On normal story, hard, I might kill people just in one pulse. And so I can go through, when I'm helping people out on story mode, we can just roll through it with seekers and that. So if you can't kill them in one, then you probably want to have a faster recharge so you get them down in 2. Now I'm going to do exactly what I said. Gosh, these videos sometimes. I'm going to do exactly what I said not to do, is go up there. I think now at this point, though, I think I've whittled them down quite a bit, so waiting for them to regen. I think part of what makes this take so long, as you figured it, that people keep rezzing themselves. So we're getting close to the end here. I really appreciate all your support. I appreciate your comments. I appreciate when you like to see things, or you recommend your builds. I like to try those. I don't make a video on each one. Some of them, why do I make a video? If I'm going to demonstrate something to you, I want to make a video like that. If you request something, if I see something in the game that, that I didn't know, that if I don't know it, there's a chance that other people don't know it, so I can do that. Things that are fun to me. I know you guys like build videos, but I'd be disingenuous because I don't play a lot of those builds. Like I go back to this build almost all the time. And in a real, if it's going really bad, I'll go to max skill DPS build. But for the most part, this is the build I'm playing, so that's why I try to show it to you. Thanks again, everyone. Hope you have a good one. Dog Roxy, she says goodbye too.